What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Verdependent podcast, where we depend on the Verde and Black for our everyday vibes. This episode is sponsored by AC Memento. AC Memento, your digital sports and concert scrapbook. This match week, we review and grade Austin's offseason, react to some pundit predictions on the team for 2026, and preview our first match of the season against Minnesota United before closing out the episode, as always, with a stoppage time rundown of the hottest Austin FC, MLS, and World Footy storylines of the past week. I'm Paul Fletes.
And I'm Logan Bartlett.
And Lobar, happy Verde week to you, my man. I mean, you are dressed for the occasion. Have you had a chance to partake in any of the celebration that the club has offered this week?
Unfortunately not. Just been busy. I was out of town Sunday, and I leave town tomorrow morning for a couple days, and then I'm back by the time of the game. So I always knew this week was going to be busy, and it is. But I'm glad others have. It looked like the showing out at the Domain was a hit. Lines around the plaza, whatever you want to call it. And the club did the right thing by opening the club to the fans early. Everybody's excited.
100%. Yeah, it's a good time, especially the week before the season opener. I think you still have an opportunity to catch some of the events. I think by the time that you're hearing this, the Wednesday meet and greet with Facundo Torres will have already passed Wednesday at the Verde store, but there is still your opportunity to go meet with other Verde fans at Radio East, which is going to be where the Verde Fest is going to be happening with all the local SGs. Always a great time. I'll try to see if I can pop by. I don't know if I can stay until midnight, which is usually when all the ruckus occurs and all the chants and the smoke and all the flares go off. But yeah, man, without further ado, though, let's go ahead and kick it off. Preheated takes. I definitely don't want to talk about mine last week, but what have you got for us this week, man?
Yeah, last week was tough. I have, and this goes against maybe not. It kind of harks back to the Chicago Fire game, preseason. At least 4 goals will be scored this Saturday versus Minnesota United. Between the teams, I'm calling it over on 3.5 goals scored. So,
wow.
Whether that's a 2-2, a 3-1, a 4-0, I'm thinking 4 goals get scored. I'm ambitious.
That's crazy, bro, because, again, just the lack of goals that I've seen from this club since September, really, of 2025, it doesn't make me feel really good. But
I didn't say it was all Austin. That's all Austin.
That's fair. Well, I don't think Minnesota's in a spot for all that offense either, but
we'll see.
I like it. I'm changing my focus away from the pitch and actually towards the supporter stands for this one because I just need my points somewhere, bro. And this one is going to come from the Tifo, which you and I have not been proper fans. We have not gone out to any kind of Tifo painting. If you have, though, if you're a listener and you've had a chance to go paint the Tifo, you'll know that it is an awesome experience and it's really fun to see the Tifo unveiling. But for the preheated take that I have that the Tifo will feature no less than 2 Austin FC All-Stars.
Well, we only have 2 options, so I like it.
Well, what you mean? What you mean we got only 2? Because I'm thinking.
I guess 3 if you include Vasquez, who's injured. But yeah.
Right, you got Vasquez, who's pretty
Biro,
boy.
right? What am I talking about?
And Biro, Galley, Stu.
Yeah.
So there's a max of 4. 5 if they do want to, put Driussi on there, but I doubt that happens.
That happens.
But anyway. No less than 2.
You're right. Hey, you got some good odds there. You're like, what do you mean? I'm supposed to earn these points? Chill.
Right, bro.
Fair.
Anyway, let's go ahead and crank into the first half, which is, again, looking at our offseason and our preseason. So for folks that will remember, our 2025 season ended in Game 2 of the first round of the playoffs, which was that 3-game series against LAFC. Since then, Roto and company shifted into roster construction mode, which brought in the services of John Bell at center back, Jaden Nelson at winger, Joseph Rosales at, I put here specifically, pick your position because, bro. And Facundo Torres as our latest DP winger. Leaving the Verde after 2025 were the likes of Julio Cascante, Jimmy Farkaloon, and Diego Rubio via contract options being declined. We had Stephen Cleveland being traded to SKC and DP Osman Bukhari being transferred to Widzo Ludes. and Javier Obrian leaving via contract buyout. So looking at that, we also have injuries, right, that kind of plagued the roster kind of at different points in this offseason. Obviously, you have Brandon Vasquez out, season-ending injury since May. Owen Wolf underwent that surgery for the hernia midway through, and then you have Mirto Uzuni, who had a little bit of a knock with his hamstring. Facundo Torres came in also a little bit, not fully 100%, and then Mikel Dessler has been kind of MIA. Some not high level concerns there, but he's probably not going to suit up for the first or second game, it looks like. So all that to say, those players are still working back to match fitness, but from a pure roster as is point, Lobar, just want to get your take on the grade, how you would give Austin for the roster and why.
I think looking at the players out, we shed some salary, we shed some lack of contribution, and just players that weren't going to get run anyway. And I think we brought in 3 guaranteed guys that are going to get play in Rosales, Nelson, and of course Torres, the DP, and then a 4th in John Bell, who is kind of a perfect Julio Cascante replacement as of his role last year for a fraction of the cost, right? So I think those are all smart and shrewd moves to bring in contributors, guys who can play. We also brought back Damian Loss, right? So not necessarily a roster move, but he's the number 2 now, and Cleveland's out as Cleveland is left. So I think I'll give it I'll say a B+. I think last season was a big step for the club in terms of
ambition,
yes, but also consistency across the board. We made it to the Open Cup final. We guaranteed our spot in the playoff without having to deal with all the play-in BS. We got a home game, right, as was the nature of the first round of the playoffs. But regardless, the team did well across both tournaments, regular season and the Open Cup, despite injuries, despite down forms, etc. They showed up when they needed to for the most part. I think all in all, coming out of that season and the moves that were made, I feel like we made some improvements. By no means was this the best offseason of any club in MLS or the best roster of any club in MLS, but I think we did good compared to seasons past. We didn't lose anybody while not refilling the position. We lost a DP. We got a DP. We lost a couple rotation guys. We brought in potential day one starters. So I feel good about it. I think B+ is fair.
I like that because I'm actually sitting right there with you at a B+. Not quite enough for me to feel like an A is worth it. I think what would have done that for me is maybe another player brought in via the TAM mechanism, right, and using some of that money there. But I think for the most part, you hit it right on the head, and not much more to add there. So looking at it now from just a pure money standpoint, looking at this offseason and the preseason, right, it felt like a lot of the theme for 2025, especially November, December, was there's hardly any flexibility. And a lot of our GAM is already used up for the year. And so how are we going to figure this out, right? And so for those that were keeping track of, not their money and the Garber bucks, hopefully y'all can help us out here. But our notes have us saying that revenue came in the form of the 2 international roster spots that we traded both to RSL, Real Salt Lake, and Philadelphia Union, as well as the $50K GAM that we covered for Stephen Cleveland's trade to SKC. And then we also got in a bunch of money for the sale of Osman Bukhari to Widzo Ludes. I believe that was closer to $6.5 million. Was that right?
Yeah, that might have been €1,000,000 too. So
exactly
that means in
USD.
We also had the LA Galaxy trade for the international spot too.
That's right. Good call. Good shout out there.
The half season, $240K or whatever that was. But yes.
Gotcha. And then how that money went out came in the form of GAM and a pick in next year's draft for Jaden Nelson from Vancouver Whitecaps.
Mm-hmm.
We had the 9.5 mil for Facundo Torres' signature, the cash for of $1.5 million for Joseph Rosales from Minnesota United, and also the contract buyout for Jader Obrian, which frees up some salary budget charge there. So we don't have the exact allocation amounts for GAM, TAM, and all that good stuff. But just from recalling these events, it feels like we ended a little bit lower in at least the GAM amount. But I still feel good because, I don't know, investment-wise, we're putting it in attack, right? And it looks like the roster is being set up to go for it again this year. I say again because we made a final in 2025. So do you agree with that? If so, why?
Yeah, I think generally yes. We're down numbers on the roster in terms of actual just bodies, right? Because our supplemental roster seems to be lacking a bit, unless guys like John Bell, which I don't think he is, but if that ends up being a supplemental signing or something anywhere else, Ilya is re-signing, whatever it looks like. Unless those end up supplemental, we're chock full on the senior roster, which means we don't have a lot of flexibility to bring in any other high-end talent, right? I think this looks a lot better once we have a healthy Brandon Vasquez back on the pitch. I think the center of the attack is where we're lacking the most, and also there's the most uncertainty, right? Vasquez and Uzuni have barely played together, and when they did, it wasn't the smoothest of fits. And since May of last year, when Vasquez went down with injury, Uzuni's taken his spot, right? So when Vasquez comes back, what does that look like? Do we see Uzuni on the wing and Torres in the middle as a kind of attacking midfielder? Do we see the front three is two wingers and striker with the three DPs, and then we figure out the rest around them? There's some uncertainty. But all that to say is once we have 20 healthy senior roster players, 3 healthy DPs, guys are contributing, right, I'll feel a lot better. So I think we're set up to go for it. There has been some flexible signings and guys that stay on the team that give us flexibility with Gallagher, Owen Wolf, Rosales now is a guy that can play everywhere apparently. So there's flexibility on this team that allows us to do a few different things, which we haven't always seen. But for me, it looks like which of those things can we do really well, right? If we have 3 or 4 different tactical options we can run and they're all mid, what's the point, right? But if we have 1 or 2 really, really, really strong options, and that's how we want to play, and we know that in the run of play we can shift to another tactic for 15, 20 minutes and be serviceable, if not better, fuck yeah. And it gets better over time too, as the guys gel and get more minutes. So I like it. I like what we did. I think the idea here is that, and Rodo talked about this in his press conference this week, like the ownership group is ambitious. We want to keep talent. We want to spend money to bring in more talent. And on paper, we did that. So will it all gel together under Nico Esteves' tutelage? 2026 will tell us. But I like it.
That's a great point that you brought up there, especially with Rodo's presser, like you just mentioned on this. What was it? The 16th, I think.
Yep.
And I think something that he mentioned there, I kept hearing throughout his responses for some of the other questions that were talking about the roster build that's still ongoing and how he was to kind of reflect on those past windows, is this theme of, you can't always keep a player forever. Like you're going to have to move on some of your better value players. And it sounds like he's not afraid and the ownership is not afraid to make that happen. So I get the feeling that probably in the summer we're going to see this is the window of like, okay, an Owen or Danny type move has to happen, because it just feels like their value is at a point where we've got to cash in on that. They're at the level that they want to advance in their careers, so to speak. But
I'm going to add on that just real quick too, is just a thing to look out for the season that I think people that will really make or break this summer potential sale and what the roster might look for is you really need homegrown players and supplemental players, like drafted players, to show out and overperform and become Danny Pereira and Owen Wolf, those kind of players. And so I'm looking at kind of those fringe guys like Micah Burton, Irvin Torres, even Alice Stewie, right, who I thought had a pretty decent preseason. We see a lot of growth from them and opportunity over the next 6 months to where we have some flexibility to send off a guy or two in the senior roster and then replace them with a dude at a different position who can add even higher value, and that replacement isn't lost because we have Burton, Torres, Alice somebody who can fill in that role on the cheap, and that from that youth system. I think that's so important, the FC2, the academy setup to start bearing fruit for us to make that possible, because that's really where you can get the flexibility to raise your ceiling as a team. So
for sure. Yeah, look at the Philly Union. Yeah, look at Dallas. Look at Seattle, bro. I mean, you nailed that perfectly, man. The bro is cooking. Yeah, bro is cooking with that one. Well, hey, you know who's not cooking? Fucking Austin FC, bro. Preseason form, Austin FC, because this is the last grade, which I totally forgot. So hold on, before we even get that far, what would your grade be on just like purely from a transaction standpoint, money coming in, money going out? What would you give it?
Yeah, we had no GAM. We ended with GAM. We spent the money that we needed to spend to get the players we needed to get. You like to see those numbers for the Bukhari out, Facundo Torres in, be a little more even. But they're banking on, I think there was a 20% sell-on fee for a guy for Osman Bukhari, right? So in 3 years, if they sell, whatever the team is called, Widzu Loads. Yeah, thank you. Loads sells Bukhari for a bag, and we get a couple mil from that. Then it all evens out long term. So you have to have those binoculars on for the long term value. I'd say it was solid. I'll say like a CB, C plus B minus. Like it wasn't a negative. And we got some flexibility in which we had none.
Sure.
We brought in guys that are valuable, so it's okay to spend on guys that are going to, hopefully raise your level of success. So, sure, let's say C minus or C plus, B minus, 80 out of 100.
I dig it. I think just purely from an amount standpoint, it still doesn't feel like we have enough GAM to feel comfortable with, and also I have to double check the allocation for the TAM, but yeah, I feel like we're, I don't know, not in a bind, so to speak, but I think that would be a definite point for us to look into early on in the season.
We also don't have any roster spots available to fill anyway, so it's not like flexibility would do anything for us because there's nothing to do.
Exactly. Bro, I just want to have a bag ready to go at all times. Exactly. You know how I roll, dude.
I 100% agree with that.
But anyway, but now we can get into the fun part, which is the performance on the pitch. From what we've seen from the guys, they came back to training in January, ready to go. We saw the clips. We were all liking the gram posts and all that stuff, but we were only able to get a win over one team. It's USL side, Louisville City, right? We started off with a draw against San Antonio down the highway, 0-0, and I mean, then we went to Q2, lost 2-0 against NYCFC, and then went to Coachella and dropped more Dukes against St. What was St. Louis 1-0. A draw against a good, Chicago Fire side who hadn't lost yet in preseason, and then dropped two nasty ones against SKC, bro. Like SKC should not be scoring on us like that, bro. Yeah. And granted, again, it's all preseason, right? It's all very, take it with a grain of salt, but still, at the end of the day, bro, we talked about this. Doesn't feel good.
No.
So go ahead. What's your grade? What you feeling?
I mean, is there anything between a C and a F? Because I'd give us that. I don't know if a D even exists. If you go below a 70, you failed. So I'll say like a 68. We failed, but barely. I'm hopeful. We played over half the preseason without our DPs. And in that, they were giving without Owen Wolf, without Mikkel Dessler, right? A lot of Svatak barely played. A lot of these guys that didn't play much until Coachella, and even then they only got 60 minutes of time here and there. So I'd say, we won one game against the worst team that we played. So
right.
good for you, and then we got dunked on by every other team, or scraped away a draw against Chicago Fire, which I'm not mad at that, but
Yeah.
it wasn't good. I'll say we failed, but just barely. I'd want to see more. If you came in for extra credit, I would have given you a C.
Sure.
But I don't know. It wasn't.
And Grant, I feel like. I don't know, man. Like from a results standpoint, well, let's just start there, right? From a results, sure, one win out of however many, 5. That's one thing. But you brought up the point. We didn't play with any DPs. We had a bunch of guys out injured, and so the ceiling is already kind of low as it is. So there's no way that we're scoring an A unless we decide that we're the backyardigans and just absolutely like. Having fun back there and scoring goals. But, dude, I don't know, man. It didn't feel good. I think it's going to be like a D for me, which is probably that same 60 mark or whatever that you were talking about. And because we just have so many questions still heading into match day 1. Like, bro, where is Joseph Rosales going to play? Yeah. Like, is he going to be that winger? Is he going to be that wing back? What are we going to do up top? Is CJ Faudre's hair going to, finally look good for him to run out? Like, just so many things that I don't feel good about heading into this game against Minnesota. And so for me, that's what's keeping me from getting a passing grade. But doesn't feel good, but I want to put all of that away now because it is the time to just forget any of that ever even happened and just get prepped for the weekend, drink the Kool-Aid, and do all that.
Yeah.
And what better way to do that than look at some predictions from pundits for our halftime segment.
Yep.
And of course, we're going to start with Matt Doyle here, who correct me if I'm wrong. He is now doing his own thing. Is that right? There was a shift. I think he mentioned no longer writing for MLS Soccer, but he's doing his own Substack.
Yep.
So if you are a fan of independent, soccer journalism, highly encourage you to take a look at what Matt has to say. But he has us at 21st, so I don't know about all that.
Yeah. So I mean, the story here is he sees us as one of the bottom 10 teams in the league for the season. I mean, the general sentiment, he kept it short and sweet for most of these. So, I mean, we could just say exactly what he said. He said the pieces still don't fit. And I am, again, pointing out very gently that Brad Stuber really struggled down the stretch last year. I'm hoping it was just a blip. He's young enough to have 3 or 4 more top years than him, but it's on my radar. I'm not, if 80% of that was about Stuber having a bad end of the season. You can think that, sure, but we trust Stu. We know Stu. I'm not worried about that at all.
Right.
Another year of consistent defense. I mean, he says that without acknowledging that we just had our best defensive year as a team, while having our worst offensive year as a team outside of season 1. So, if that's going to get us 6th, I think our offense will increase at least a little bit in terms of output, and our defense hopefully stays around the same. And I feel good about it. So, putting us 21st. Doyle generally knows ball, but I think in this case he missed the mark a little bit. I'm not worried about Stu. I don't think Garber or anybody else in MLS would be worried about Stu, or else they wouldn't have made him an all-star. And so he's the guy. Most saves over 5 years in MLS history.
That part.
Keep being the guy. And if tragedy strikes, we got Damian Loss ready to go. If Stu ends up not being him this year, which is I wouldn't bet on it. We got Loss ready to show up and dominate. So I feel good there. I don't agree with Doyle's take, but I respect him nonetheless. He's got a good mind.
Mean, 21st just seems a little bit too low. Granted, I know that we just talked about the fact that the form heading into the regular season was not the prettiest, but if we're building it off of, again, like what you were saying, Stu's drop in form there at the end of 2025, not the wrong metric to go off of. I think our lack of scoring prowess is probably what we should be grading that. But that still has, stayed the same for the most part, I think, over the course of the offseason and preseason. We saw that over the course of the games that they had. And so I think for me, it's, Yeah, 21st seems a little bit rough, but
Yeah. I mean, does he have a point that, without expanding upon it, that the pieces don't fit? Sure. We just talked about that ourselves, right? How do
yeah,
Zuni and Vasquez fit once they're back in health? Where does Rosales fit? How do we make up for some of the redundancy on the roster? Having five guys that can play the same position but don't know where else they can fit, no center mid depth. Like, yes, these are all concerns, but he didn't say any of those things, and I'm saying them, and I still
Yeah.
think we're going to be decent. So, you know.
I feel that. And then looking at some of the other MLS staff picks here, looks like for the predictions, Austin sits sixth in the West, which is, that's a little bit better than I think last year we were. Was it around 8, 9? Like right around that play-in?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. So not a bad shout there. Then we have Max Bretos giving Austin their highest rank at 4th. And Daniel Chapella putting us as low as 11th. And so from there, 5 experts each ranked us to end the season in 5th or 6th. So it seems like a good landing spot there.
Yeah, I think the general consensus is that we stay put in the regular season, that is. We finished in 6th last year. Most people believe we're going to end around there this year, which I think would be fair given the fact that we're also doing Leagues Cup this season on top of Open Cup, right? We're doing 3 competitions now, and then the World Cup break is going to condense the season even further, right? So it kind of adds some unknown. So I think even if we are a better team on paper and in general, a stronger offense, which, fingers crossed, a consistent defense, I think some of that increase in quality bleeds into the cup competitions, as I think they should. And I think if we stay put in 6th in the West, I wouldn't be mad as long as we do well, in the other competitions, which is, again, very much mimicking our talk all last year as we progress through the Open Cup. Like,
right.
As long as we keep
the ability to spin the plates. Yeah,
exactly. So I think they're not wrong in that. That 5th or 6th feels good for Austin, and the rankings, I feel fine about that as long as we do well elsewhere.
For sure. And I see here you've got a link here to an American Soccer Analysis article here. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the ASA group, they did a huge data dive into the last 7 years of preseason rankings given by MLS experts for all 30 teams. And so what they did is take the average over these 7 seasons of where pundits placed teams in the preseason and then where they finished, and then kind of averaged it out from there.
For sure.
So long story short, if you look at this graph, it's a 4-quadrant graph showing kind of the trend of like, hey, most times people, either they're overrated and bad or underrated and bad, or overrated and good or underrated and good, right? So either people say they're going to be bad and they're good consistently, or they say they're bad and they're good consistently, right? The opposite. For Austin, they nailed it perfectly. We're the only team in 30 that was exactly where we were ranked on average that didn't move at all. Maybe Portland was the other. We're like maybe 2 teams total. Every other team, the average was, we said they're going to be good, and they're generally a little bit worse than we said over these 7 years. Over our 5 seasons, the average placement in preseason by these experts has been 9th in the West. And our average position landing at the end of the season has been 9th in the West over 5 seasons. So, while some years are worse than others, where they said, we're going to be not as good and we get 2nd, or they're going to say or they thought we were going to be good and we got 13th, they generally on average have nailed Austin. So again, this is across all, like a number of experts, including Matt Doyle, right? So, it was just interesting to see that we've kind of been pinned down on the dot the last 5 years on average of like experts kind of know what's going to happen with Austin, whether or not some wiggle room, but over 5 years they've nailed it perfectly. Anyway.
Which is crazy because when you think of MLS, it's like one of the few leagues that you just cannot put a pin on.
Yeah, generally, that's the point, right? The parity aspect that everybody talks about. I'll point a couple examples just for reference. Like the obvious outlier is San Diego. Everybody thought they were going to fall like 13th, 14th, 15th last season, and they ended first, right? Like everybody, no one believed in them, and they overperformed. Consistently, people have underrated RSL and Charlotte to be out of the playoffs, and on average, they make the playoffs pretty handily, 5th or 6th. in the rankings. And then some other teams like Atlanta United, people generally think they're going to be good, and they've been pretty bad. They've been on the fringe playoffs when people generally think year after year they're going to be third or fourth. So Austin was perfectly in ninth every time on average. So
That's
just
crazy.
a funny notice of like, well, the data rings true. So
Always will, brother. Well, damn, dude, I'm still not feeling super pumped for match day 1 after all that. So hopefully
we'll change that. We'll bring the vibe up. We got to bring the vibe up.
When we come back from when we come back from the halftime break, we will definitely be sure to be drenched in the Kool-Aid, and so that way you, dear listener, will show up to Q2 on Saturday just absolutely ready to go crazy when we get those first 3 points at Q2.
Yes, sir.
So we will be right back. And we're back. So, without further ado, match day 1 against Minnesota United has Austin with a very familiar foe. I believe that Austin SC actually has the head-to-head with 6 wins versus Minnesota's 5 wins. The goals, like you were mentioning in your preheated take, Lobar, you said 4 for match day 1. There had been 14 goals scored between both of these teams. So the goals are looking like they're in your favor, G. Only one draw between the two clubs. And so when they meet here in Q2, they've got a new manager in Cameron Knowles, obviously familiar face with Josh Wolf as the assistant coach there. A couple of new faces on the team, most notably James Rodriguez.
Yep.
Right? A couple of notable exits include goalkeeper, Dane St. Clair, Robin Lude, and obviously Joseph Rosales, who is now an Austin player. So looking at all of that, how are you feeling heading into match day 1 against the Loons?
I'm excited, man. There's a lot of unknown across the board, right? This will be Austin's fans' first looks at Facundo Torres and Verde Black. We'll get to see some decisions being made starting this Saturday of where guys like Jaden Nelson, Joseph Rosales, Danny Pereira, how is he gonna line up if we're kind of running this, depending on what the midfield looks like. But there's just a lot of unknown of what we should expect to see long term, and this will be our first glimpse into that, right? So it's always an exciting time of year, but even more so this year because we have new talent on the team, and that unknown spreads or bleeds over to Minnesota as well, right? They have a lot of new players in. From what I've been reading from their copywriter, their content writer, that's kind of a theme of their expectation this season. It's kind of just roll with it, bob with the waves and see how the season goes, because the James Rodriguez loan is just through the World Cup break. And
correct.
Maybe that continues on if things work out well. But how's he going to fit in? He's only been there for a week and a half in Minnesota. How do they fill the void of losing the goalkeeper of the year? Longtime guys like Dotson and Lude. Chankalai comes in as well from New England Revs. How does he fit in? Where do their goals come from? So there's a lot of uncertainty there too. And I think, at least from Austin's point of view, it makes it difficult for us to game plan with certainty, and that's always the case match day 1. There's changes happen, new players come in, players go out, new coaches come in, etc. Match day 1's always kind of a feeler of how's this going to work. But it's just going to be a lot of, I think, unknown, for the players and the coaching staff as they plan for this, and then for the fans even more so. For us in the stands, as we just, throw out all the vibes and energy that we can for 90 plus minutes and tear Q2 down. So I'm excited for it. I'm a little nervous. I will share this since it's not embargoed information or anything. My bachelor party is on Saturday, and a part of it is the game, and so we're going to be holding it down. A whole group of us just having a good old time after a day of hangs. So
100%, dude.
I'm gonna have a good time either way. Whether
Right.
it's because of the love goggles on or not. I'm gonna be
Yeah, yeah,
vibing.
yeah.
So I think I'm just hopeful. All the best energy is being put out there for me and the crew. So I'd like us to have a good game and a fun time, and just to see some inklings of what this team can be, specifically on the offensive side.
For sure.
So I'm excited. Man. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, man. I think I would be lying if I said I wasn't excited, because I always am for Austin FC. Even if I said in the first half of this episode that, I'm still not feeling it, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid yet. I always am drinking the Kool-Aid, let's be honest. But I think one thing, though, as I start to separate, what the preseason is for the players versus what it means for the fans. Like, I felt it when we were at that Q2 match against NYCFC, where it's that feeling of being around, that community that comes around this team. And every year we get to experience that, that day one, and it's kind of like, first day of school again, that kind of vibe of, hey, you remember seeing these faces in the halls and stuff like that. And, and so I always appreciate that feeling, and it's always really cool because no matter what, there's always someone that it's going to be their first time ever stepping into that stadium and experiencing the team and the culture and just that environment for the first time. And so that makes me feel so good that's what this club provides to the city. So all that mushy stuff out of the way, talking about just kind of the pure gameplay on the field. Yeah, I'm right with you, brother. I'm hopeful, I'm excited, but I'm a little bit nervous also because I understand that we're going to be in a little bit of a weird flux period as we're still waiting to get, Brandon Vasquez up to full strength, Owen Wolf back to full strength, Mikkel Dessler back to full strength. So a lot of our key pieces we're not going to be playing with right out of the gate. And so I think as a fan or like as a casual listening to this podcast, I would just ask, that you still enjoy yourself at the game and all that stuff, but just know that whatever is out there, those 11 playing for Austin, it's probably not going to be the best 11 that we have, right?
I mean, it won't be until we have Brandon Vasquez back. That's just the nature.
So that said, I'm not worried so much about the result because, again, we mentioned it during the preseason or the off season where it's like it's going to be a little bit of a wait before we have our true like best 11 out on the field. But I think we're still going to have a good time.
We are.
Yeah,
I think something that in hindsight, and we talked about this while it was happening, but just reflecting back on last year, we've talked a lot about change and uncertainty and some frustration with the lack of offensive production all offseason, right? As we've seen preseason take shape and kind of how is this roster going to play out? But reflecting on last season, the core group that carried us to the Open Cup final, that went through the toughest of moments, getting swept by LAFC, losing at Q2 versus Nashville in the Open Cup, rallying around each other when Brandon Vasquez goes down, right? Most teams would have imploded and crumbled and let that be the end of their season. But we didn't, right? And that was thanks to the likes of Uzuni, Stuver, Owen Wolf, Bukari, Danny P, right? John Gallagher, Svatak, BHI, all guys who were still on this team, Biro, right? Dessler, all these dudes came together to make sure that to will this team forward and show up when they needed to, until, those hard moments struck. And that builds character, that builds resilience, and that builds kind of a culture together, a shared experience and bond. And most of those guys are back. And that was kind of a theme. While Roto didn't say those words exactly in the preseason, in the presser this week, he alluded to a lot of those themes of like, we don't want to shake up the group we have. We believe in this group. The ownership believes in the top talent we have on this team. And we're bringing in more guys who have experience and who've been at the highest levels and who've competed across MLS, Open Cup, et cetera. And so I think fans, regardless of the outcome of this game, looking forward to 34 games this year, to 2 different cup competitions on top of that, we have a really strong group who's been through some shit together in the short time they've been together, and those types of battle scars really build, grit and resilience and togetherness that I think can elevate this team long term. So, like you said, we're not going to have our best 11 out there on Minnesota just because of the nature of injuries and health and whatnot. But we have a really strong team regardless, and a lot of new pieces that can really both raise the floor, but really, elevate the ceiling of this club. And so look for new guys to make their mark early, to earn those minutes. Look for Torres to want to be the guy for Austin. Look for the returning core to really, stand together and do something good this year. So got a little preachy there, but
you brought me back, dude.
Sometimes it's easy to get to play in the mud a little bit with this team, because we haven't been consistent. We haven't been, we're 5 years in, and there's been a lot of change and frustration over those 5 years. But there's been a lot of highs, and I think we can really look back at 2025 as a whole as a strong positive mark for this club, and most of those guys are back. So,
I like it.
Watch them come out and really do the thing.
And put 4 on Minnesota, dude?
Dude, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like I said. Come on,
I love it, man. I love it.
Well, 34-0-0.
There you go. Always starting off like that. I love it. Yeah. So, I think there's not a whole lot more else to say to it, man. So let's just get right to it. What do you have as your scoreline coming out of Q2 against Minnesota?
I'm going to keep it. I think I'm going to go with the 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw?
I'll feel good about that. I think we take risks offensively that lead to some defensive mistakes or counters where guys like James Rodriguez, Troncolai, others can take advantage. But I think those risks result in some solid, more solid than we've seen offensive play, and we score 2. This is me manifesting. And hopefully the defense shows out, and it's a 2-0 win. But I said 4 goals are going to be scored, and I want that point. So 2-2.
Oh, I love it. See, you think that James Rodriguez is going to play on Saturday?
I think he has to. I think the only reason he came to MLS was to play, and Minnesota knows that, and they don't waste time. They don't have that X amount of games with him. They're going to play all the games again. Whether he starts or not, I don't know. But I think he has to get minutes, or else he'll be frustrated already.
I hear that. Yeah, and I think for me, man, on the other side of this, remembering all of that tenacity that the team shared in 2025 with themselves and those results, getting to the Open Cup final, getting to the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. It's like, I think they want to show out for the crowd this time, and I can see us getting a comfy, 1-0.
Hey.
1-0, 3 points, bro. 3 points on the board is what I'm feeling. So, let's do that. And again, this is going to be 7:30 p.m. kickoff at Q2. So make sure that you are ready to go. Again, get there a little bit early too, because again, they have the tifo unveiling there right before kickoff and all that good stuff. So that'll be a really fun time. But I guess it's time to go ahead and get into some stoppage, eh?
Yeah.
Cool. Looking over at the Austin FC side of things, the club just announced that matches will be re-aired on Tuesdays on KBVO throughout the 2026 season. So for those of you that would love to be able to catch that and maybe don't have access to Apple TV, locally on KBVO, Tuesdays, that's the vibe, sounds like.
Yeah, and it'll be good for the sickos like us to watch back. Of course, we can watch it anytime on Apple TV, but just getting to sit down and watch it live again and kind of witness that broadcast, it's fun. But more so for the folks that don't have access to Apple TV. Here you go.
For sure. Hear that. And then was going to hold off on this till the end there,
please do.
Shall I? Okay, fine. I'll keep it to the end. But this next point is a CONCACAF point, talking about the path to the 2030 World Cup. I don't know if you had a chance to check this out, Lobar, but
Teach me.
the Federation went ahead and unveiled, the path to qualification for the 2030 World Cup, and just talks about how the Gold Cup is going to be slated in between Nations Cup or Nations League, play and all that stuff leading into the qualifiers. So thoughts there?
I mean, we're like that. That's all. No, it's hard to even think beyond 2026 World Cup because it hasn't happened yet. But I appreciate you putting this on my radar because now I can think about it. Yeah, I mean, I think it keeps building on this pathway that we're on with North America and CONCACAF, and hosting the World Cup this year, and then continue to elevate and build the culture beyond, or beyond what it is going into the World Cup. So just continue to build on that momentum that the World Cup being hosted here brings. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think just for me, it's always mind blowing to see that. There's people that think about this in 8-year cycles, right? Because like you were saying, it's wild to think about 2026 or beyond, but I mean, there's already 30 and 34 World Cups being planned, and what the qualifications for every federation looks like, and so, yeah, man, it's mind blowing, and then to think about how that looks like. How does the landscape of soccer media and just soccer in general look like after this World Cup? Wraps up in July, and how is it going to last on beyond that? It's going to be really interesting to keep track of. But
they're trying to build something that persists. So I appreciate that.
For sure. Speaking of building to persist, looking at the NWSL, 2 teams. You have KC Current and Bay FC picking up some big-time midfielders. You have Croy Bethune being traded from Washington Spirit over to Kansas City Current, and Claire Hutton from the Current over to Bay FC. I think they're both considered high-impact players, by the way.
Yep. I was about to say, so I think that's 2 more high-impact players and club record allocation or club record exchanges and whatnot. I think on both fronts it would have to be if they're high-impact players. But it's good to see the league and the competitive teams taking advantage of this as soon as possible. Couldn't just be Trinity Rodman. You have to have other dominoes fall to establish this as this high impact player kind of roster mechanism as a pathway to success. You need more teams to join in, so it makes sense. But if I'm not mistaken, they're both very young players, right?
They are, yeah.
So
they're young, but they're also key parts of Emma Hayes' future national team.
Yeah, they're very successful too, but it's cool to see the youngest, most impactful players getting this, and not it gives a different lens to how DPs work in MLS. You get your 27, 28-year-old superstars.
Sure.
Not always, but it seems to be more that way.
Right.
In DPs, and now in WSL, it's kind of the opposite. They're getting their 23-year-old, rookie of the year, U.S. women's national team players locked and loaded and locked into contracts that pay them what they're worth. So I think that's smart on those teams' ends, and likely what a lot of the league will do long term.
Yeah. And I think shout out to the KC and Bay specifically, because I think, like you were pointing out, especially with this high impact rule or high impact player rule that's still kind of in this gray area, not sure if it's kosher to still be dealing with this mechanism necessarily, while it's still kind of being arbitrated between the Players Association and the league.
Yeah.
I think for them to just go, you know what, we're going to go ahead and do this anyway.
It's a thing, so we're doing it. Yeah.
It's, it's just smart. So good on them. Moving on to Chelsea and America's favorite team, Wrexham, AFC. Looks like Wrexham is hosting the Blues at the Racecourse Ground in the FA Cup 5th round. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's the perfect blending of American fandom, right? You have one of the biggest, the biggest teams in the world that many in the States
world
are fans
champions.
of. Yeah, world champion, of course.
What you mean?
In Chelsea, and then the FX super, whatever you want to call them, starlet
Yeah.
team in Wrexham coming together. And you have Hollywood versus London, and there you go. So,
Yeah.
yeah, have they played in what context have they ever played each other, or like in recent years, Wrexham and Chelsea? I know there's a friendly a couple years back, but
Yeah, there was that friendly in the U.S., but I think the last time they actually played competitively was probably like 40 years ago. Last time I checked.
Okay. Cool.
So it's definitely. I mean, it's one to get some dust off, and open back. But yeah, it's gonna be a good one. I think the scenes at the racecourse ground, dude. I can, if you've watched the show, then you know that it's always madness, even when it's just like Dagenham FC or whatever bottom tier, Welsh club. But I mean, you have champions of the world, Champions League winners. I mean,
one player in the starting 11 costs more than Wrexham's entire roster. You know what I mean?
Right, bro. And to play at that racecourse ground, it's going to be crazy. Shout out the fans over there. I'm sure they're going to make it absolute bonkers.
I'm excited to watch. Yeah,
it'll be good. It'll be good.
It's going to be fun.
For
for what it's worth, Chelsea just wiped the floor with Hull City 4-0. And Hull City are above Wrexham in the table right now. So, if you want to look at basic, we beat them and they're better than this team, then we should.
It should go,
It should go how you think it should. But, I mean, you never know.
Exactly, man. That's football. But, last but not least, we're rounding it out with Best Ball officially coming back 2026. We were so fortunate to end with the wooden spoon in 2025.
Shout out Vasquez.
Shout out Vasquez, bro. But yes, the North End podcast have been kicking this off now for, I believe, the past four seasons. Is that correct?
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're going to be looking to turn our fortunes around and gun for that number 1 spot at the start of the regular season. So look at their channels, because I think they'll be broadcasting the actual draft live. I think we'll be a part of that.
Well, it'll have been done, but
yes.
Yeah,
it'd be a good time. But keep an eye on that Best Ball, bragging rights, and all that good stuff to the winner of each week. So, should be a good time with the North End and other local folks as well. Well, we appreciate y'all kicking it with us this year on this episode of the Verdependent podcast. I'm Paul Fletes. Catch me on Twitter at PaulAndrewFC. It's a government name.
And I'm Logan Bartlett. You can find me at LobarBHLM.
And keep the chatter going online by following at the Verdependent on socials. And if you can, consider leaving a review, like, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That is all, folks. Peace.
Oh, why are you screaming at me?
Oh, my God.